Joining us now, Ben Tribbett, one of the leading, in my opinion, the leading Democratic consultant in America. If you're a Democrat, you want to win a race, tweet him at Not Larry Sabato and say, hey, help me win. And the guy does nothing but winners. I mean, he's really, really good at what he does. Ben Tribbett. Follow him on Twitter at Not Larry Sabato. Ben, great to have you, man. Ben, are you there? Ben, wake up.
Good morning.
Okay, Ben, you're there. Man, we got 18 minutes, Ben. Lot to talk about. So we saved the best for last, right? You're the cleanup hitter because 2017, Ben, I just told everybody, you nailed it. You said the Democrats would win 15 to 17 seats. We said 2 or 3. You're the only person that had it. You were absolutely spot on in 2017 in Virginia. How do you see this year, today, election? What say you, the guru, the title holder, the champ, Ben Tribbett?
Well, I think the Democrats have taken the Virginia Senate. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think they're going to take the Virginia Senate with some margin. We have 2 seats that are already in the Democrats' favor heading into Election Day. And I'm also hearing turnout has been very brisk this morning across the state. There are already some ballots actually in Richmond that have run out of some precincts in Richmond that have run out of ballots. Mm-hmm. One person reported that they were told to come back in an hour when there would be more ballots there. So turnout has been very brisk across the state. And I think the Democrats probably will end up at the end of the night taking 3 to 4 seats in the Senate, with 2 already locked down. And they only need 1 for control.
There's a big difference between 3 and 4. So I'm predicting they win 2 seats, 13 Dick Black seat. I think Bell wins that handily. And then Sturdivant is going to lose to Show Me the Money, Hash Me. What other seat do you think might go down for Republicans?
The two other seats that are toss-ups are the open seat in Virginia Beach and the Henrico seat with Senator Dunavant versus Delegate Rodman.
So, look, if Dunavant goes down, that's tied. I'm predicting she hangs out. But if she goes down, it's 22-18. But it's not really going to it might not affect the House. If Kiggins goes down, it's Armageddon for Republicans because Virginia Beach is their firewall. And if Kiggins goes down, Stolley goes down, Holcomb goes down, Davis goes down, they all go down, and then it's a bloodbath.
Mm-hmm. Well, Virginia Beach and Henrico, I think, are both actually really important to the House because they both overlap with such key House races. And one of the things that we're seeing this year, and I think, has been consistent since Trump became president, there's not a lot of crossover voting going on. People are in camps. And so I'm not seeing a scenario where you see split results in some of these districts. I think that, for example, in the Henrico Senate seat, if Senator Dunavant wins, I think that it's very likely that Delegate Rodman's delegate seat will flip Republican, and that Schuyler, another Democratic incumbent there, Van Valkenburg, he may also lose. So the Republicans could pick up 2 House seats there if Senator Dunavant hangs on. That having been said, if Delegate Rodman wins, I think they'll hold both House seats. So it is very much with no crossover voting out there, at least in large numbers. It's very much a base turnout game going on today.
So if you had to make a prediction now, what would it be? 23-17, 22-18?
Hey, I'm pretty comfortable at 20 with the Democrats at 21 and 2 toss-ups, saying 22 as a prediction. But I think that generally toss-ups tend to go the same direction. So, while we're saying 22, the reality is that 21 or 23 is probably more likely than 22.
Right.
I think those toss-ups will go the same way.
All right. So I'm saying it's 21-19. Saslaw becomes majority leader. Hey, I just got this text in from Joe in Henrico. It says, Chaz is a much better election analyst than Ben.
Oh, wow.
True? Yeah.
Well, that's why that's why Chaz is going on NBC tonight.
Ben, if it was up to me, I would have you on NBC, Ben. In fact, we invited Ben to our radio show. tonight, or election night coverage, but he can't get to Richmond. He's got stuff going on in Northern Virginia. Okay, let's get to the House and some key races, Ben, that are really going to decide everything. All right, I've got 3 seats going to the Dems immediately, like 7-10. I've got Clint Jenkins over Chris Jones, pickup number 1. The Pocosin seat gone. Martha Mugby wins that. That's 2, and the third flip I've got is I just forgot the third one, but go
you were
ahead.
Thinking of Shelley. You're thinking of Shelley in the third.
Yeah, Shelley over Yancey on the peninsula. I think those 3 are gone at like 7-10. What happens then?
Yeah, so I think the Mugler seat is absolutely going to flip. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a little bit closer than people expect, but I do think that will flip. Remember that her husband is a commissioner of the revenue in Hampton, and anytime you're involved in local politics, you're always going to, have a little bit of a lossage of votes just from, local issues. But I think that Mugler will certainly prevail. And I think the Shelley Simons race is actually going to be closer than people expect. David Yancey beat her by 15 points when they ran in 2015 together. And now the seat has gotten more Democratic since then because of the redistricting, but it has not moved 15 points. And I think that the difference is really in the Trump era. I wouldn't be surprised to see Shelley squeak it out tonight, but I do not think that will be a blowout. I think that actually will be very competitive. And then finally, John, I think of the 3 you've named, the Chris Jones seat is the most unpredictable. The early vote numbers indicate an overwhelming Democratic presence in that district in the early vote, that Chris Jones is not turning out Republican voters. That having been said, I think that what you'll see tonight is Chris Jones is probably going to do better among African-American voters than any other Republican in the state. Mm-hmm. He has a long history of working with the black community there. So, again, I would put a question mark on that race. I think that the Kirk Cox seat, I think the speaker is going to survive. The early vote numbers look very strong for him.
I agree.
I think Chesterfield is going to be a bright spot for the Republicans in the House races. And so what that will leave us at is really talking about sort of the outlier seats, whether that is the last Republican in Northern Virginia, Tim Hugo, whether that is the open seat in the Fredericksburg area. Every seat is going to matter for control. And I really think that if you're looking for an early indicator on the House tonight, the best indicator are going to be those 2 Senate races with Rodman and Turpin, because the outcomes in those will tell you what's happening in the House races down ballot. And the Democrats really need to prevail in both of those races in order to take the House of Delegates tonight.
See, I just don't think they're going to do that. And you get to these House races. I mean, I've got a couple people text me and said, 53-47 Democrats. I mean, it's a nice prediction to make. But then if you do what I did and you go through each individual race, I don't see. I mean, there would have to be another wave, because but I think you're right. If Kiggins goes down to Virginia Beach, and Stolley goes down, and Virginia Beach, they break the firewall, I think it is going to be a debacle for the Republicans tonight, and they're going to have a disaster on their hands, no question about it. But if Pence went to Virginia Beach, Trump's numbers there are better. Kiggins is a great candidate. Cheryl Turpin, very liberal, for a pretty conservative area. But I think you're right. If Kiggins goes down, Stolley goes down, Davis goes down, Holcomb goes down, and that's a disaster for Republicans. I think you got that nailed. So let's go through some of these other races. Stolley, Nancy Guy, I guess your answer is going to be, it depends, right?
I think Stolley is favored in that race. I think the Glenn Davis race has actually trended a little bit closer than the Stolley race at the end here. And I think that the Republicans are probably narrowly favored in the 85th House open seat. And John, I would just say this. The House of Delegates tonight is going to come down to a very small number of seats. And because of the size of the House delegate districts and the turnout in off-year elections, we're probably looking at control being decided in some of these seats by 150, 200, 300 votes, right? So my message here is that even if either side took a 55-45 majority, which would be a substantial House majority, that majority probably is based on less than 2,000 votes margin in the 5 seats that they took. That makes the House a lot harder to predict when we're talking about 100 votes here, 200 votes there, than the Senate. So,
right.
This morning I put it at 50-50, and I don't put it at 50-50 of the outcome will be 50-50. I actually put control of the House is really a 50-50 proposition. The closest of these close races are going to come down to just the smallest fraction of votes. And I think we're going to have a very late night in the House of Delegates tonight.
All right, stay with us. I got to go to a quick word from our sponsors. Steve Bannon coming up at 9:05. I want to keep it right here. I'm going to get Ben's final analysis on some of the key House races. Stay with us. Now you're back on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America with Ben Tribbett. Follow him at Not Larry Sabato. He's the reigning champion of Virginia election predictions 17. Nailed it. No one else did. So let's go to some of these key races. Ben, District 28, Fredericksburg, Milday, Republican, Joshua Cole.
This seat is absolutely just hardcore Republican in off-year elections. And the Republicans may have actually found a way to fumble it away with by nominating Milday. I mean, literally, I think almost anyone could have held this seat for the Republican Party in an off-year election. The reason this seat becomes a little more competitive in governor's years is the turnout on campus at Mary Washington.
Right.
And a governor's year helps make Fredericksburg tip out the seat a little bit. But, man, I mean, it's unbelievable that this seat is even in play. At the end of the day, I got to predict that, Milday is going to end up pulling it out by the skin of his teeth because of the performance of the district. But it is it's shocking the Republicans let this get into play.
Well, I tell you what, we backed Bob Thomas 100% and endorsed him in the primary. It didn't help him. Obviously, he lost, but I've gotten to know Paul, and the guy grows on you. I mean, he's tough not to like. That's why he's a supervisor there. I think he wins. Nick Freitas, right in.
I think, John, who doesn't like their local cocaine dealer?
Oh, Ben, District 30. Ben, that's so bad. District 30. I'm gonna stop laughing.
Are they always likable?
District 30, Nick Freitas as a write-in candidate. Is he going to win that race, Ben?
I think the Freitas will win. That's one of the question marks tonight, is because they won't actually count the write-in ballots until later in the week. So all we'll see tonight is how many write-ins there are, and obviously if that is in any way competitive or even within 1,000 votes, we're going to have to see if all the write-ins were for Nick, if they were properly cast, if people filled in the bubble. So a lot to be seen on that one. But I think at the end of the day, probably Nick will pull that out. Can I just go back to one other thing, John, what we were talking about earlier with tonight's show on NBC?
Yes.
I don't know if you saw last year's show, but how much Chaz just dominated that show with Pete Snyder on. Pete really struggled when he was up against Chaz. I don't know if he was just not able to keep up with Chaz or what, but I'm disappointed that Pete's not going back on tonight. I think he got so embarrassed by how he was run over by Chaz last year that he was unable to book again. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think they fired him and hired Chris Saxman.
Yeah, I think Chris Saxman's going to get run around by Chaz also. But
Saxman's going. They got rid of Snyder. They hired everybody. I give a radio show to becomes a star, right? Joe Morrissey, Chris Saxman's now on TV. I give him a radio show. VA political memes is headed for stardom. Everybody I give a radio show to. Okay, I've got under a half a minute. A couple people are asking me, oh my God, ask Ben Castleberg's seat. What about that? Debbie Rodman's seat. Who's going to win that?
I really think that one is a pure toss-up. I do think, this is what I'll predict in it, it will go the same way as the Senate race goes, which is also a toss-up. There's going to be almost no crossover voting there. I'd give the slightest of edges to the Republicans there, but it really is going to be determined on what happens in the Senate race.
All right, Pete Snyder has responded. He said they want Patsy, so now they went with Saxman. All right, Ben Tribbett, we got to go. We're out of time. Ben gives no prediction in the House. He says it's up for grabs. I'm saying 51-49. Kirk Cox wins and saves the Republican Party from permanent generational Armageddon. And maybe they can get another fax machine and a beeper, and then they'll be rolling. Steve Bannon in his basement coming up. War Room Impeachment. We'll be live tonight, 6 o'clock on the John Fredericks Show, 6 to whenever. Ben's going to call in, so it's all good. And we'll be live for our election night coverage. Mike Watson, Saxman, after he gets through TV, is going to be joining us. And Joe Morrissey's crashing a party live at Kirk Cox headquarters. I still can't get over what Ben said about Paul Milday. Ben, thank you for joining us.